Today, we are going to learn how you can draw on your screen. So this is a lot of fun, and you can both use your handwriting, or as you might have seen before, you can do fun things like shapes, like circles, or maybe you want to make a square. Maybe you want to have a check mark. There are all sorts of fun things you can do, and that is what we are going to focus on today, learning all about how you can use your iPad as a whiteboard and actually draw on your screen. And this is a lot of fun. So I am happy to be talking about this subject and teaching you how you can do this and have a little more fun on your streams, although I will share when to use this and maybe when you don't want to. And I'm excited to see that there are some of you who are here joining me live today. So if you are here and you haven't yet, please say hi in the chat. I can see that we have Marcus is here, Evan is here, Simply Obs, Booster Maboit. Am I saying that right? All right. So yes, today it's all about using your iPad as a whiteboard, having a little fun, drawing on there, and also using the shapes. Now, when it comes to this, I will explain maybe how I would recommend using it, why and when you would use it, and I'll actually show you behind the scenes how you can set this up. There are a couple of different ways, a couple of different programs, and so I'm going to cover all of that today. Now, if you are not familiar with me, my name is Kat, and I help people to create more professional and engaging online presentations. So this is a good one. I'm excited, and I'm so happy to see a number of you showed up live today. Okay, so when it comes to drawing, why would you do this and when would you do this? So what I actually like to think about is picture that you are in a room with the people on your call. Yes, you're in a virtual presentation setting, but if you were in a room, would you use the whiteboard? Would you use a chalkboard, maybe a little more old school? Do you have poster paper? Maybe you have chart paper with markers. So those times when you use that, it's usually when you are leading a group through something. You are teaching something, you're trying to highlight something, or maybe you're going step by step. Now, obviously, we know that there are ways to do this with animations and with slides and graphics, which is excellent, but there are maybe times where it would actually be really fun. So I'm going to show you an example, which I haven't done, but I would probably do in an upcoming workshop. So if you are not familiar, my background in facilitation, I've worked a lot with teams, helping them understand themselves better so they can stop working against their personality and start working with it. And one of the tools that I often teach is with the Enneagram. So let's take a look. Here's an example of how I have this set up right now on my iPad. And with the Enneagram, there are 9 personality types, and they interact with each other in different ways. And they're also grouped together. So let's say I am talking about how we cope with things. Maybe I'm going to pick red on purpose this time. And I'm going to pick the shape tool, which you can see, and we're going to talk about that as a disadvantage in a moment. So, and I'll tell you how to get rid of that. But let's say that I have these tools selected and I want to say that, type 2, 7, and 9 are what we call the positive outlook type. This app, which I am using called Good Notes, actually creates it into a shape, makes it a way nicer than what I just did. And it allows me to showcase something and actually draw right on this. So that's something I just did there. What's another example with the Enneagram? I explain how types under stress go to different areas. So I could explain how the 3 goes to the 9 under stress. And so I can draw a funky little arrow there. There we go. Or I could say how in times of growth, when they're healthy, a 3 can act more like a 6. And so then I can show that example. That's not so nice, but that's part of the beauty. When you are drawing freehand, I think people are a little bit more forgiving. At least I hope so. So that is a quick example of why you might use it and one example of the type of thing that you can do. You can also draw directly on your screen. Maybe you are trying to do something like perhaps you're teaching about sales and you want to explain a sales funnel. You could actually draw that directly on your screen. So, programs. What can you actually use? I mentioned that I am using Good Notes, but there are other options out there. And when it comes to the different options, I would say sort of play around, see what works. Some are free, some are paid, and you want to just see what works best for you. So the ones that I will highlight is, so Keynote. If you have an iPad, you already have Keynote on the iPad. It is native, it is free, and it does have a drawing tool. And I will actually show you Keynote, and I'll talk a little bit about the pros and cons in a moment. The other one is PowerPoint. There is an iPad app for PowerPoint, and it does have a drawing tool. Full disclosure, I'm not signed in on my iPad, so I haven't actually tested it out yet, but I know they have a drawing tool. So that's another one, and I know a lot of people use PowerPoint. Now, the one that I just used that has those shapes and has a lot more options for pen styles is GoodNotes. Now, for me, I'm in Canada. It was $10.99, which is not a lot to be able to have that functionality on your device. And then the other one that I have not actually tested, it's another paid one, is called Notability. And so this is one I have seen people use. I know that they use it. I know that it works, but is not one I have tested myself. I would love to hear from you if you have used a drawing app or you used the Whiteboard before. What did you use? Did you use one of these? Did you use something else? I'm sure other people would also love to know if there's a good one out there. Now, pros and cons. So Keynote, I mentioned, is free. It's native. It's on your iPad. However, there are not a lot of options for colors, and it also doesn't allow you to change the pen thickness. And it does not do the shapes. I tried to do the Enneagram showing how you can move between the different numbers, and it was horrible. So that's a drawback. So that's not my favorite, but it is the nice thing from a user standpoint is it's very easy to make a green slide, which you'll learn about in a moment. We are using a green screen or chroma key, and then you can just draw on it. And it doesn't have the toolbar in the way that you saw my toolbar pop up, which is one of the things you have to watch out for. Now, when it comes to GoodNotes, this is one that has great functionality. I love that you can draw shapes, and I love that you can change the pen color, way more colors, and the thickness of it. So that's great. The drawback is that you have to be in presenter mode, which requires you to use an HDMI. So we'll talk about this in a moment. So you have to have a different cable than the one I'm currently using. So you would have to have a different connection to your device. But it is possible. You can do that. And then that way you can change it so that nobody sees those presenter tools, the ones that I accidentally showed you. If you practice it right, which I did, and then it just didn't work, you can actually get away with not showing those presenter tools, but I accidentally did. I'm looking down here. I see, so yeah, Evan uses GoodNotes. That's wonderful. And I see, am I saying it right? Boots to my boy. If you could help me out there, that would be great. I use iOS Notes app and Procreate when I need to be creative. So I assume that there is a pen tool involved in there. And hi, Susan. Thanks so much for joining. And yeah, it happens. And it's right now we're live. And well, if you're doing a live presentation, that's bound to happen. I feel like people are pretty forgiving with seeing something like your presenter notes. And I see JB Windle. I've tried them all. Notability is currently my favorite. That's great. I'm loving it. I have not been using it long, and I think it's great. And yes, got to be okay with imperfection. Let's show this one. This is a great comment. You're human and helps to know I am not the only one. Yeah, I make mistakes on my live streams. Okay, so let's now get into the next part. How does it actually work? So I made reference to the color of the background because you are actually using a green screen or a chroma key. It doesn't have to be green. Depends on the program that you are using. So today I'm going to demonstrate how to set this up with both Ecamm and OBS. In Ecamm, you can choose green or blue as your background and make those disappear. If you are using OBS, you can make multiple colors. You can actually set your own custom color with the chroma key filter. So you do have options. You'll just have to think about what colors you are going to be using. Now, with connecting your iPad, I did make reference to that. And this is where you have a few options. So right now, as I mentioned, I'm not in that presenter view. I am currently just using a cable. So this is the exact cable you would use to charge it. This is Lightning to USB. So I'm just plugged in really simply, and that makes my iPad show up as a camera option. So that's one option. The other option is that you might actually consider, if you're using GoodNotes and you want to hide those present those tools, the toolbar, you can use this. So this is an example where I have an HDMI cable plugged into an HDMI to Lightning adapter. And that is the way that you can actually hide those tools so people won't see them. So it's like you're plugged into a projector and they'll only see the drawing. Okay, so let's take a look at my iPad. So this is what I just drew on at the start. And so you can see I actually have two. So I have this one, which was my Enneagram example, and this one. And in GoodNotes, you can actually, I have a few just loaded screens. So if I just use two fingers, I can swipe and just have a fresh one. So I set up 5, and that is just a way that you could easily swipe and have a clean slate. You don't have to make sure that you have everything. What's the word? You don't have to erase everything, because the eraser on the way that I have it set up would probably show. Whereas if I had the presenter view, I think it would probably look a little bit cleaner. So this is what I have here. Also though, if I go out of this and I were to pick, say, Keynote, I did an example with the same thing. I was playing around with this. So in Keynote, I would go into the presentation view. And if I kind of hold down, you will see that there are some, the drawing shows up. So if I wanted to draw on this and I picked the red, so I could kind of do these drawings like I did before. And so that's an option. They're just a little bit more unsightly. And so it's not as much control. And as you can see here, I can't change the size. I have very limited options for this. So that's not an ideal situation. But you can also see I played around with PowerPoint. The other thing you'll see on this screen here is the last kind of app, the dark one, it's NDI HX Capture. That's actually a way that you could wirelessly connect. So if I open the NDI HX Capture, I can broadcast my screen. And so that's a way to wirelessly share what is on your iPad. So that is another option that you would have. So okay, that's how it works is you are connecting your iPad and then you are adding a camera overlay. So just like plugging in a camera into your streaming software, you are pulling this in also as a camera, and then you are applying the green screen or the chroma key. So let's talk about how you actually set it up. And I think I see a question. So I just want to so Susan, can you make an initial, so let's put up this question. Oh, it's hard to see because of, so can you have an initial design that you're making notes on like your Enneagram? Yes. So that is what I did. So I actually went into Keynote. I put in that drawing and I had, as you saw in the example, let's go back to it. So if I go back to my iPad here, so this is, and I actually have like the other one, I have a clean one just in case I need to. I had 2 slides with this. So in Keynote, I just took the white, did a white box. I added the shape of the Enneagram, and then I made the background of the slide green. And that is how I did that. So you could do that with anything as long as you make sure that what you have on the side you want to show does not have green or whatever color you are trying to get rid of, if that makes any sense. So when it comes to setting it up, I'm going to show you Ecamm and OBS. And again, we are adding a camera overlay. And the good news, if you are an Ecamm user, is that the recent update does allow you to stretch things beyond the screen. Because I personally, I have the mini, and the screen size, which you can actually see when I go to this is not 16:9 ratio. This is not wide. So I have to be able to stretch and adjust that so that I can have that set up. So I'm going to go into my demo mode. So let's show you my screen. So now you can see Ecamm and you can see everything that I am seeing right now. And we are going to, all it is right now is a camera. I don't have any overlays. So what I would do is go into overlays. And here you can see, if you can see my mouse, it's the camera overlay. So I'm going to add a camera overlay. So right now it's defaulting to my Sony, my actual camera, but I click on the little pencil and I want to change this to my iPad. And then I want to change this to custom. Custom allows a little bit more freedom with adjusting the shape. So now you can see what I have visible on my iPad. So I'm going to kind of stretch this and just have that toolbar out of the way and then drag this over. Now I see the toolbar again, so then I want to drag it up again, kind of drag it bigger. We're gonna do it a little bit more, drag it bigger. So now, I think there's still a little bit of toolbar. It's all a game of, figuring this out. And if the new Ecamm, if you hold down function, you can make all of the little menu disappear. So it makes it easier for you to resize things, which is great. So now it's green, it's a camera overlay. And so now I want to go to my right under camera effects and I choose the camera that I want to adjust the effects. So I click on iPad and I click green screen. This is the first step. Now, this is a brick wall. Now I have to say that I want this to be transparent. And now that I have clicked transparent, now it is a transparent overlay. And then this is where I can actually draw on it. So if I were to start to draw, you can see here, weird little red shape, but that is how I have it set up. So that is how you set it up on Ecamm. So now let's switch and I am going to go out of live demo mode and now I'm going to open up OBS. So here on OBS, and I have my little picture-in-picture, I'll make that go away. So this is OBS. You might have a slight delay because it's going in there, but let's see how this works. Right now, the only thing I have set up in OBS is my camera. So now I'm going to add a camera overlay. So if I go under sources and click plus, then I'm looking for a video capture device, just like if I were adding a camera into OBS, because this is like a camera. And this I'm going to say is my iPad and say, okay. And here I'll be able to see all of the cameras that are available. So I'm going to pick my iPad. You can see what I've drawn here. Let's go to a fresh one and say, okay. And then now the nice thing with OBS is it does have the trick. So if you hold down Option or Alt, you can crop. So I don't have to worry about the toolbar. Let's do that first. I'm going to crop all of that black out. And that's the Option or Alt, depending on which computer you're using. And then I'm just going to drag this to fit the screen. And I have to go a little bit bigger. There we go. So now I've covered the entire screen. So if you are using OBS, then you will want to right click and go down to Filters. And under Filters, you're going to add an effect filter, which is the chroma key. So here, it's the second one. You want chroma key. You can just call it that, okay. And here is where you can pick the color. So if you're using green, great, it defaults to green. If you want to use blue, magenta, or custom, put in your own hex code, you can do that as well. So if I did click custom, I would be able to put the color in here. But I'm going to go back to green and click close. Now you can see that it is transparent. And so now I can take my little pen. Let's go back to white and a pencil. And this is where I can draw. So you can see that I'm drawing directly on the screen. So that is how you set it up. It's really easy to set up. A few things that you might want to pay attention to. One is that it can be hard to see where you're writing. So on my iPad, if we take a look, and I'll just kind of turn it around, you can see it's just green. That means that I have to sort of ballpark where to put my pen or your finger, depending on what you're using, if you have a stylus or a pen. And so it takes some practice. So that is my biggest tip, is you are going to want to practice this and see what works. Also, when you're stretching it out on the screen, sometimes it's not going exactly where you want it to go. And so you might need to practice. So earlier today, for example, I went on to this slide. If we go back to this slide, and I actually do have, I think I put my overlay. So if we put this back, so you can see it's zoomed in, and I was trying to make notes here. That was really hard to do. I tried it, but it was not great. So you want to pick and choose what are the things, when do you actually want to use that? Because I think that's really important for you to ask is, how are you using it? Practice drawing it. Now, the other thing you can do is maybe you have a really light or bright space and white maybe doesn't show up that well, you could just add a semi-transparent overlay, whether that is a sidebar or it could be fully, it doesn't have to be transparent. You could just have a sidebar that you put and then draw on that. So there's certain things that you can do in order to make it a little bit easier, because it's a little tricky to figure out exactly where you are drawing. The other thing I really want to drive home is that this is a tool, just like any tool to make a more engaging or professional looking presentation, is it should support what you are doing. Yes, it captures attention because it's not done all of the time, but it can quickly become a distraction if you are either misusing it, overusing it, focusing too much on your iPad and your whiteboard and not on the people in the room. So how can you make sure that you are using it to actually help the people who are listening to you retain key points, keep paying attention? And that's the thing that you really want to make sure you are focused on. So that is something I really want to caution. And I would say that it is for anything that you use. Any tool of engagement, if not done well, can be a distraction. It can make people tune out. So just like, what is this person doing? And so you really want to watch for that. So I want to see, are there any questions that anyone has? I'm not sure. Brad Jones, I don't know fully if I understand your question. And Evan, thank you so much. Love this. When doing presentations, I usually just record from my iPad. It's more professional. It can be professional, but it could also go south if you are not careful with it. But my main thing is always practice, see how it fits. And then the other thing that I'll say, I didn't actually show a demonstration, but if you are plugging in your iPad for the HDMI, so let's actually go back to, let's go to a fresh screen. I'm going to go here. So if you are deciding to use GoodNotes, which I do, I really like the shapes feature. I think it's great. So when you are plugged in by HDMI and you have the ability to do the presenter notes, if you click on the share, this is where you have the option to mirror presenter page. This is where your audience does not see the tools. They won't see the interface. And that's something that you want to take into account. And let's actually, I can show this. So let me just switch quickly. I switch to my main cam, and then I'm going to plug this in. And now because I'm plugging this in, so I've got Lightning to HDMI, I'm putting my HDMI cable into a capture card. And now it's going to show up as a different camera. So if I go into my Ecamm demo, so let's actually go back into live demo mode because it's a different camera overlay. So before there's the iPad, but this is not showing up anymore because it's not plugged in. So if I go to the little pen tool, you'll see that that's not available. And I can switch. So right now this is an Elgato HD 60S Plus that my HDMI cable is plugged into. So if I select that, you'll see it's green again. And so I can kind of play around with the overlay and the sizing of it. And then on the camera effects over here, I go to the game capture, I do green screen and then transparent. So now I have it here. And because I have that set to the presenter mode, let's leave this. If I were to, that menu is actually open on my iPad right now, but you can't see it because I have now set it so that it's in that presenter mode. So if I did pick the pen, I can pick right now the pen color is open. I did that accidentally. But if I wanted to pick a specific color, I could do that if I wanted to pick blue. And then maybe I want to do the shapes and I draw a little triangle there. You aren't seeing me choose the color. You aren't seeing me choose the different shapes or any of those different options. So that is a cleaner option. It could be more professional if you want to make sure that people aren't seeing that interface. So that is definitely something that is worth considering if you are using the GoodNotes app. It has that option. The other thing I'll mention when it comes to if you're using slides, depending on how you're connected. So what happened earlier today is when I went into, and actually maybe I can show you this. So let's go over here and we're going to pick this and let's actually, you should be able to see. Yeah. So here's my iPad. And if I go into Keynote, now that I am connected by HDMI cable, if I'm in presenter mode, I think it wants to go. So this is now, oh, so actually it does work. So on my iPad, let's switch to my main camera, and I'm going to actually just turn this around and show you if I can do that. This might be awkward. This is presenter notes. So this is showing me now the time and it could show me the next slide, but this is not great for actually drawing on your slide. So that's something you should also, this is why you want to take your time, you want to experiment, you want to practice and see what it is that works. And hi Mario, thanks for joining. I see here, you can draw shapes with Apple Notes if you just hold the pen on the shape at the end of drawing it. That is great to know. Thank you so much, Daryl, for sharing that. And so Matt says, let's put this up here. So a tip I saw was to do some writing in advance in a slightly darker color green and then just trace over. Oh, that is interesting. Because yeah, it is hard to position it. So you could do that and position it and practice where it's going to go. That's definitely an option. That's really good. Are there any other question? So let's see. My iPad Pro last gen did not show up in Zoom. Okay, so this is the what I am using is a virtual camera. So when I do a presentation, I am actually bringing this into a streaming software. So I mostly use Ecamm, but I've also used OBS. And I know for a lot of people, OBS is free and it has the virtual camera option. So you can easily pull it into Zoom. So you are actually doing the work. You're setting up your production in that streaming software, and then you connect Zoom to your virtual camera. So that is how I do that. I'm not pulling my iPad into Zoom. So that's not the camera source because I want to be in there too. So that's where you're setting up. So basically what you're seeing right now, I would open Zoom and I would connect my virtual camera and they would see exactly what you are seeing. So every time I drew on the screen, you would see that in Zoom. So it's sort of like that middle step. And if you haven't set up your virtual camera, I believe I have a link. If it's not here, if you click on the video called Setting Up Your Virtual Camera in Zoom, you will see the link to grab the guide as well as some free graphics. You can start actually creating your virtual camera. So I hope that answers it. I'm going to do a really quick review, see if I missed anybody. I think I saw all the questions. Thank you so much for joining me. I would really love to hear if you give this a try. Please let me know, come back to this video, share in the comments or reach out on social. I would love to know if it works. What did you do? Is there something that worked really well? Maybe something that didn't work so well, because I'm sure other people would want to know. And I see, so Evan has a question around Ecamm. So for me, as a presenter with a Mac, because you need a Mac, it's Mac only, it is well worth it. So when I look at the cost of doing business, for me to pay a few $100s for the entire year to be able to have this technology, absolutely worth it. Because I use this I use this right now for my streams. I use it for my virtual camera to go into Zoom, and I use it to record all of my recorded videos. I just set them all up with all the graphics and just press play, kind of do it like a live stream, and then I upload those to YouTube. So I use it for a lot of my business. I would say if you are just getting started out and you want to add some graphics to your presentations and you're bringing a virtual camera into Zoom, OBS is a perfectly fine way to start. And I have never used OBS for streaming. I know there are some quirks with it. It's not everyone's favorite tool, but if you're just using a virtual camera, you want to add some graphics, OBS works perfectly fine and it doesn't have the cost. I personally like Ecamm's interface. So I'm an advocate. I'm a happy member of the Ecamm fam, and I think it's great. Okay, I see some other comments here. If drawing in advance does not work because you need more shapes that is useful to draw up front, make the virtual cam part of the screen only, not a full screen. Yeah, so you could do a partial overlay. That would definitely work. You don't have to cover your whole face. You can just cover part of the screen. And then I see Victor, I use OBS with Zoom by NDI. Yeah. And I actually have a video, I recorded it and it's going to go up soon on NDI. So if you are new to NDI or if you hear me say it and think, what even is that? It's coming. And this is exciting. I'm going to try today. Let me know how this works. And okay. Oh, great question. how are you getting the green background in GoodNotes? So what I did is I actually, for GoodNotes, I used a PDF. So I did it two ways. First, I just went into Canva and I just put a green square across the entire page and downloaded it as a PDF. So that's one option. The second thing I did with the Enneagram example that I shared is I went into Keynote and I created the slide and then I exported that as a PDF. And I'm sure the same thing would work if you created it in PowerPoint as well. So you just want to apply that green background and then you can export. So I think the PDF works really well for GoodNotes. And then I actually just airdropped it. So once it was on my computer, I just sent it to my iPad and then I said open in GoodNotes, and that's how I did that. So it was actually pretty straightforward. Okay, and looking forward to the NDI video. I'm glad to hear it. All right, I thought this was really fun. I had a lot of fun, and I hope that you use it and enjoy it. And if you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments, and good luck. And I hope that you can maybe use a virtual whiteboard to make your presentations a little bit more professional and engaging.